What's going on, everyone? So, welcome to my latest video. This is my review for the 2024 film Maharaja. So, Maharaja is an Indian cinema film. It is spoken in the language of Tamil, and this is an action drama thriller. And I apologize in advance if I get these names mispronounced, but this is directed and written by Nathalian Simathan, and it stars Vijay Sethupathi and Anurag Kashyap. Those things are the only things that I knew going to this film. All these things I found on the AMC app when I was scrolling, and the title of this film immediately caught my eye. Like I was like, that's an interesting title. And then on top of that, I saw that it was spoken in Tamil, so I was like, oh, it's an Indian cinema film. So I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. That's all I need to know. And I will say this: I'm not going to give the premise of the film because, in my opinion, those things that I mentioned in terms of the title, the year it came out, the genres, the actors who wrote and directed it. Those are the only things that you should know going to this film. The less you know, the better, because this film has quite a few surprises. I really liked this film. From the opening scene, I knew I was in the hands of a director and writer that are firing on all cylinders. The opening scene is shocking. It is really, really good. And it immediately dawned on me that I was like, this is a sign of a great director and writer because of this. That opening scene, it's not even just that it's shocking and that it's filled with surprises. It's that you immediately care about the lead character. You're emotionally invested with him, and that from then onwards, even if he does things that, are morally kind of conflicting, you don't care because you immediately understand with where he's coming from. You understand his journey. And I will say what's nice, though, about the film is that because it is non-linear storytelling, there are some things here that are sprinkled here and there where it's like we learn more things about him, and then as we do, it's like, oh wow, okay, it recontextualizes certain things. And that's also the same thing that I can say about the main villain. Not going to spoil anything, but what I loved about this film is how the lead characters, the main villain and the main hero, you see where they're both coming from. You understand why one's on one side of the law and one's on the other, but you also understand what they're conflicted with, and how what the one character does ends up leading to what the other character then does, and how they both then fall into morally gray things that make them as audience members conflicted. I liked that approach. I think that being able to also see the similarities between them is also something that the best films really do a good job of. I mean, think of Heat with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Those are two characters where it's like they have so many similarities, but they're on two different sides of the law. And that is one of the reasons why they are at odds with each other. And that's similar with this film. And that is something that I really appreciated. I want to rewatch this film already because of those two characters and their dynamics. I'll also say this, speaking of rewatching, this is a film that I already know I want to rewatch because this is a dense film. It throws a lot of information at viewers. And not only does it throw a lot of information at viewers, it also is told non-linearly in some instances, and it also has it where there's a lot going on, so that way it can be overwhelming. For myself as a viewer, I'm fine with this approach. If anything, I prefer to be overwhelmed than be underwhelmed when watching a movie at times. And so because of that, despite at times not being able to fully understand what was happening on screen, and having to really be like, okay, what's going, despite that, I was okay with that because, again, I like that. But I am saying this as a partial negative because I know for some viewers that might be an issue. Wasn't an issue for me, at least, because, again, of how I am personally as a viewer. But I know some people that might not like that approach. Other thing I wanted to mention is that the ending of this film genuinely left me shocked. I mentioned how the opening scene did, but the ending, the last 10 minutes in particular, really left me shocked. So much so that my jaw dropped and I legit had goosebumps all over my body. I loved the twist. And what's interesting is that the twist reminded me of another international cinema film. I'm not going to say what that international cinema film is because I feel like that might spoil it, in terms of not only that film, but then also this film. But I will say is that if you've seen that other film that I'm mentioning, you'll understand what I'm talking about. This twist ending felt like a gut punch, but like an earned gut punch. And it also then leads to a shocking last moment that also felt really earned. It's just a film that overall felt very satisfying and is just filled with things that overall make it so that way I already want to rewatch the film. It also is, from a technical standpoint, really good. You have a bombastic score that's really good, a really hard-hitting sound mixing that the two combined make for a audio experience that you definitely want to experience in theaters. In terms of the visuals, visual effects for the most part are pretty good, I would say. But what's also good is the cinematography. Although early on, I will say that it did have that like murky digital look that American cinema films also sometimes have. But the cinematography did get better as it went along, and it did have that like nice juiced up, stylish approach that a lot of Indian cinema films have. So I did like that as it went along as well. Again, I thought it got better. I like the costume design. I thought that was really good. And then the makeup was something that I wasn't really noticing. Like it was something that, again, felt natural. It worked. But the third act really made me recontextualize even the makeup. Made me want to go back and rewatch the film to analyze the makeup because there's certain things about the makeup that, knowing what we know by the third act, it's like, okay, the makeup actually has a lot of heavy lifting that it has to do. And so because of that, again, it makes me want to rewatch it so that way I can appreciate it more. So overall, this was a very entertaining film. I think that the fact that the story was able to jump from genre to genre seamlessly was amazing. Like, I loved how watching this film the first 10 minutes, I really wasn't sure about what I was getting myself into. And the fact that as the film went along, it was able to go through all these different genres in a way that was both entertaining and then thought-provoking. I really liked it. This is a really, really good film. It really is unfortunate that most Indian cinema films do not get a physical media release because I would 100% want to pick this up on Blu-ray or 4K. But I do know that it probably will be on Netflix in the future, so when that is the case, I'll probably try to check it out again in terms of rewatching. But as it stands, yeah, I really like this film. I think one of the other things I wanted to mention, I know I mentioned the acting, but I think that it's not even just the main villain and the main hero, their performances. Everyone else, the supporting characters, are really well played in terms of like the actors. So that's something to also praise. And I also think this film is very well paced. There was never really a second where I was bored by it. It was a film that felt really consistent in that area. So overall, yeah, Maharaja, I personally really liked it. And that's why I'll personally be giving it a. But yeah, guys, that's my quick review for the film Maharaja. Like I said, I know I was being vague with certain aspects, but that's only because I want to preserve that experience for you guys. I want it to be where you go into the film knowing as little as possible. I will say, if you want to talk about this film in depth, or especially in regards to spoilers, feel free to talk about them in the comment section down below. And I say that with all love because, again, there's certain aspects of this film that I want to talk about with people. But I also don't want to have a video where it's like I'm talking about all the spoilers when this is a film that just came out, so I don't know how many people have actually seen it. So I'm hoping that this video, if anything, will bring awareness of this film, especially to my subscribers that probably haven't heard of this film. But if you're watching this video, now you've heard of it, please check out this film. Support this film. It's really good. And also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, follow me on Patreon, as well as on Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.